men are just these uncontrollable beings, and it's not a question of if you'll cheat, it's just a question of when. Married women will see other single women as a threat. Me personally, I just really struggle with the idea of marriage. Women, the whole time, we're being prepared to be something for somebody else. Men are not prepared for marriage. Like, marriage is a prize for women. It's like, oh my gosh, like, I have a husband, like, thank God. And it's just like, okay. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is SincerelyOghosa. If you haven't come across my channel before, I upload beauty, lifestyle and straight talking videos. Today's video is going to be a straight talking one. If you are interested in seeing more of my videos, please do make sure you click that subscribe button, click it, and also please do click the notification button so you can be part of the notification gang. So yeah, let's get straight into the video. Now this was kind of inspired by a few things, a few conversations I've had in the past, as well as a video I was watching with Kelechi. I will link her channel below. She does kind of like podcasts, talky videos. She was talking about something that I've been thinking about for a while. Now, as you can see from the title, it's about married women. I'm not fortunate, I don't have a lot of rude married friends. I only have one married friend, and she's very, very cool. In fact, there wasn't really much of a difference to her before she got married to after she got married, and I think that's because she was very aware of the disadvantages in terms of behavior that come from being a woman who's married. So she tried her best to combat that type of behavior. So she didn't actually show or display that kind of behavior towards me, but I have felt this kind of way from other people. Now, of course, if you are African, West Africa, for us, marriage is a very big thing. And I remember even being, I think I was about 17, and I went to a wedding with my friend as her plus one, and we were dressed up and stuff. And after the wedding, several aunties actually came up to us and said, "Don't worry, my dear, your time is coming." And I thought, does she know that I'm literally 18? Like, I'm not interested in marriage. Like, that phrase, "don't worry, your time is coming," kept on being said to me, to us. And I just felt like, am I crying that you feel like you need to console me, or you feel like you need to comfort me with those words? Like, I'm fine. That in itself is just a reflection of how women are treated when they're single. It's very, very deep, because I do think that is also a reflection of how those aunties felt when they were single, because Nigeria is even more sexist society than here in the UK, where things are slightly more liberal. Obviously we're not all the way there yet, but in terms of sexual equality, there's a lot more work that's been done in the UK versus in Nigeria. So they probably felt the pressures of being single a lot more, so maybe they projected that onto me. I feel like married women, not all, I feel like I have to say not all in all of my videos, but it's clear that I don't mean all, but it's a lot. If it wasn't a lot, I wouldn't have to do this video. I feel like a lot of married women, and I feel like even though men chase women very, very often, women are always the first. I feel like women are the first people who are assumed to have done something wrong. So like, married women will kind of treat them a certain way. It's like, one example is like when Phaedra Parks accused Kenya Moore of like coming on to Apollo, and even in that situation there wasn't any suspicion, really. There wasn't much suspicion placed on Apollo. It was mostly placed on Kenya. And it's like, okay, if you're so concerned about your husband having an affair, why don't you address those issues with your husband instead of projecting all of that drama onto an innocent bystander? I've seen situations where either like married men have come on to me, or like I've been out with my married friend and a man's come on to her, and she's been like, she showed him her wedding ring, and he's been like, "Oh yeah, I'm married too." And it's like, it's just insane how, like, whether they're single or they're married, a lot of men do feel like they're entitled to women's bodies. And this is something that, like, Anthony Joshua's comments, his comments in GQ magazine were actually from 2017, but they resurfaced. He was basically saying that he raises and he treats his son very differently to how he treats his niece, because she's a girl and because he wants her to be respectable and have family morals, because one day she's going to be someone's wife. But with his son, he teaches him to be young and free and spread his wings. I'm not taking this out of context, this is literally what he said. Obviously he's everybody's fave, he's everybody's MCM, he's still my MCM. What he said is just very, very problematic, and it's one of those things where when you have a platform you have to be so careful about the messages you convey, because it can be very, what he's advocating for isn't unique. We've seen this mindset like time and time again. Like, this is the typical patriarchal mindset that we've seen that is affecting society, and it's just very, very damaging. But it just really goes back to what I'm saying about married and single men. Like, a lot of married men cheat, yet the stigma placed on single attractive women around married men is still a lot worse than placing the judgment actually just on the married man. I'm not saying adultery is fine, obviously it's wrong, but what I'm saying is that many times married women will see other single women as a threat instead of addressing the issue with their spouse. And I think one thing that is kind of like accepted within our society is this whole thing that I hate so much of, like, boys will be boys and, you know, men, a man's man, which is basically actually a phrase taken from what Anthony Joshua said in his interview, like, boys will be boys. It's kind of like, it covers all sin, it covers all manners of sins, doesn't it? Because it's like, whatever a man does, oh well, you know, boys will be boys, especially when it's to do with sex, because there's this whole idea that men are just these uncontrollable beings, and it's not a question of if you'll cheat, it's just a question of when. And it kind of links in actually with what Cardi B was saying about Offset a couple of weeks or about a month ago, where she was just saying that, you know, all men cheat or something like that. And it was kind of like scary that in our society we kind of just assume that because they're men and because they're like red hot-blooded male, it's like it's indicative that he'll just go out and just carry women over his shoulder and just take her off with him. And it's just so unacceptable, because that actually leads into rape culture. But I know I've addressed that on some occasions in past videos, and I think that leads into basically there's just this big I think there's an entitlement that men feel like they have over women's bodies, and a lot of married women feed into that by always assuming another woman is the problem, instead of assuming, okay, is the man a problem or is it me? Am I projecting these ideas of sexism onto my spouse? Am I assuming this because of what my ideas of being a man are? It's almost like a given that, like, the man will stray, because when you're not questioning him, obviously we all know that, like, women are pitted against each other anyway in terms of, like, in the media. Like, that's why I hate those little, like, who wore this better than who. Like, you rarely ever see that with men. Obviously fashion is treated very, very differently by in terms of, like, how women in the spheres of, like, men to women, but it always makes us compete against each other, especially when it's like, who's thinner, who's prettier, who has the biggest boobs, who has the nicest body. And it continues that whole trend of women feeling like the other woman is somehow going to take something away from them because they have something that they don't have, whether it be beauty or brains or whatever. What really annoys me is the fact that because the blame is focused on the single woman, it's like, never ever hold the men accountable. And, you know, I had some people commenting on one of my last videos about, like, white supremacy, and saying, oh, you know, like, it's not all black women who are affected by white supremacy. What do you mean, sis? It's called supremacy. They're ruling supreme. If you've been raised in the West and you look me in the face and you say, I have not been affected by white supremacy, nope, white validation means absolutely, it means nothing to me now, and nor has it ever meant anything to me, then you're lying. It has infected every fabric of society. It's so ingrained in our culture, in our communities, especially as black people. The self-hate is there. Like, why do you think bleaching products are one of the most popular products to buy in Nigeria, in the Caribbean, in India? Like, you can't just say, oh, it doesn't affect me. So a lot of these mindsets are going to affect us. white supremacy is still there, misogyny is still there, and it does affect you, and it's up to us to unlearn all of those things that we've picked up. Like I always say in my videos, but people still, it's like they pick and choose. I always say, like, I'm still unlearning so many things that I've picked up from society or from the media or from whatever. It's very, very difficult to just grow up around it and isolate yourself from it. You don't even know sometimes that you've picked it up. Me personally, I just really struggle with the idea of marriage. Don't get me wrong, I'm a Christian and I love marriage, but I really struggle with it because I feel like the way marriage has been painted, it's like as soon as you get married, you lose your identity, especially as a woman. I feel like, and I know that many women feel like, you lose part of your identity. And it's not like, you know, something died, but, you know, it's a massive, massive change. And like Kelechi was saying this in her video, and I can't agree more. I've heard some other women talk about this as well in great detail. You feel a change, like your name changes. Like me, for instance, I can't lie, I don't know if I'm going to change my name. Like, I don't know, maybe we can do a whole double barrel thing. My name's quite long though, so I don't know how that's going to work, especially if I marry Nigerian. It's going to be like Ovembrio, but it's just going to be long, so I haven't really thought out the logistics. But the fact that I've, you know, a woman, right, has carried her name, which is, you cannot lie, your name is part of your identity, for how many, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, God knows how many years, your adult life, your childhood life, you've carried that identity, it's become part of you, and then all of a sudden, it's gone. Like, that's a really big deal. Like, for men, they don't have to change their surname. And I know a lot of Christians will comment under this and be like, oh, well, as a Christian, you should take, then no, that's not in the Bible. So, I mean, obviously you could argue, yeah, the whole two become one thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean, that's why I would be here for a double barrel thing, because at least the children would have two names. But for me to actually give up my name is a big deal to me. And also, like, the fact that, you know, for women, the whole prefix, I think it's called, of Miss or Mrs. changes, whereas men, it's the same. They get to keep their surname. They don't have to change anything in forms that they fill in. Everything's the same for them. And I feel like for men, there's a lot less pressure on them to change when they get married, especially in the West African culture. Like, Nigerians, we really need to fix up, because I feel like as soon as a couple gets married, or shortly before they get married, or while they're in courtship, everyone's freaking in their ear, like, to the woman, like, you better make sure that you cook him pound every night. Do you know how to cook? Do you know what he likes to eat? Do you know where he likes to sit and watch football? You better watch football with him. You better do this for him. You better cook and clean for him. You better make sure that this is okay for him. But when it comes to the man, there's rarely that advice. And it goes back to the whole Anthony Joshua thing of that whole, like, preparing the woman. It's like, women, we don't even get a chance to just be, to develop our gifts, our character, our likes, dislikes. The whole time we're being prepared to be something for somebody else. You rarely hear parents saying to their son, oh yeah, we're preparing him for marriage. Think about it. If anything, that maybe comes when he's actually talking about getting married. It never happens when he's a child or an adolescent. Like, girls don't even, it's sad what he said, Anthony Joshua said, because it's like, she doesn't even have the chance to be a child, like a girl. Already you're thinking of handing her to some other man already when she's not even a teen. Like, it's really, really mad. That just adds to the whole complexities of my feelings about marriage, because it's like a lot of men are not prepared for marriage, number one. And I feel like in Nigerian culture, women are prepared so much that by the time they do get married, they end up being sort of like caretakers for men. Like Michelle Obama said this amazing quote, which said, we raise our daughters but we love our sons. And it's so true. And it brings fruit to such poisonous relationships, because what you have is like women who are giving their all because they've learnt to give. I've learnt to nurture you, whether that be sexually, whether that be physically in the home, whether that be emotionally. I've learnt to give and to do for you, whereas the man, he's really just taken, really, because he's never really been taught. Really, marriage is a two-way thing, and it's a thing of sacrifice, it's a thing of compromise. If you've never really been taught how to do all of that, then you're not prepared. I'm not saying I won't get married. I do want to get married, but am I rushing? No. And even me, like, the fact that I'm not rushing, I think a lot of women are like very, very desperate to get married, which I'm sure a lot of you guys know. And it's like, if you're not desperate to get married, then it's like you're weird, or it's like, okay, what's wrong with you? Or, and if you're a single woman, especially like from 25 to 30 upwards, the society, especially African society, treats you of, okay, you're either a whore or you're just unwanted. And even that feeds into sexist views of women, how we can only be Mary the Virgin or Mary the whore. You can only be either or. Like, there's no shades of grey, there's no faceted character to her. Like, even as married women, I think that's why. And, you know, people might say, oh, you know, I'm generalizing, but I will link below a scientific study that was done by a university in America, where the study results showed that single attractive women are treated as threats to many married women. And you know, it just goes on to like further that whole dangerous idea of looking a certain way, already you're a threat, but you're not looking at the man. I've been in a situation where I was at a party and I was like dancing with a couple of friends. This was in uni though, so this was like times where people were a little bit more immature, so maybe you can give them the benefit of the doubt. And I was just dancing in a group, and I was dancing with a guy my friend was seeing. We weren't dancing together, we were dancing in a group, but he just happened to be next to me. And the next day, so annoyed that I was dancing next to him. And I think it took me a really long time, because I have struggled with feelings of like low self-esteem, but it took me a really long time to realize that actually she was threatened by me, and that's the reason why she was so angry and so possessive of him. I feel like it was that projection of her insecurities and how she felt about herself going onto me, and thinking she's a problem, she might cause a problem for me and this guy, I need her to be out of the way. And that's actually how our friendship ended. And I feel like there's so many married women and women in relationships and serious relationships who have that viewpoint. And with this video, I really wanted to like share the plight of the like unmarried women out there. With that, I don't even mean it to be a negative thing. Like, if you're not married, it's completely fine, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. Like, marriage is a prize for women. It's like, oh my gosh, like I have a husband, like thank God. And it's just like, okay, like next. If anything, it's more about two people rather than one. But for men, it's almost like whenever like a man gets married, I don't think there's as much jubilation in terms of that whole prize winning thing as there is for women. It's like, oh, I bagged myself a man. Whereas like with men, it's just like, okay, like he's getting married. I hope that this has like helped some of the women out there who have felt the same, who felt kind of like ostracized for being single. And to the married women out there, I'm not attacking all of you, but I just want to let you know that this is the situation going on out there. This is like, sexism and misogyny is very, very real. And all of us, including me, just always need to check any of those mindsets that we may have picked up, will have picked up in one way or another during our lives. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please do remember to click that subscribe button and click the notification bell as well. I will be back soon with another video. Thanks for watching. Bye.